Oh. Whew, man, Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Always great, always a great time, but man, you know, it's good to be back here.
Chad, it's January.
Sarah, you're ruining the mystique. All right, so we went to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival a while ago. There's nothing in there. Back in September, middle of September, and we were thinking about how we could show you guys all the stuff that happened there, like all the great seminars that we went to.
All the big distilleries we hung out with, like Four Roses, Maker's Mark, Bardstown Bourbon Company, and Jim Beam. Amongst others, yeah. We can also show you, you know, the great annual barrel relay race. That's always exciting. That's true. But, you know, there's so many craft distillers there in one place, and we really felt like it would be a great opportunity to help you guys get to know some of them. So a couple things about this. Since this was filmed back in the middle of September, if anyone is referencing a time frame, like this just came out, or it's getting ready to come out. Or by the end of the year. Etc. Just keep that in mind. And the other thing is... We tried to be as democratic as possible, right? So we put the distilleries in alphabetical order down below, and then they also have chapter marks so you can jump around and meet them. Okay. Let's check out our first craft distillery.
Hi, I'm Justin from Bluegrass Distillers out of Lexington, Kentucky. We are a small from-scratch distillery. What that means is we really just started from zero and worked our way up. As we get older, our bourbon's also getting older. Something that's very special to us that we offer is a blue corn bourbon. We're the only people in the state of Kentucky that make a blue corn bourbon, and this is our very first batch of bottle and bond. We have this toasted oak barrel. It is a sourced high rye bourbon that we then finished in a toasted French oak barrel. It came out very smooth at 100 proof. I get a lot of salted caramel, peanuts, almost like a pecan, with very mild hints of citrus in it as well.
Hey, just wanted to cut in and say, if this is like your third or more time that you've watched one of our videos and you haven't subscribed to us already, well, I feel like it is a new year, a new you. Time to hit that subscribe button. It's time for some commitment. Yeah. You can handle it. We love it, it's free, and you get to stay on top of all of our content.
So Chicken Cock Whiskey was established in Paris, Kentucky in 1856. And as the story goes, first time it was produced, it came off the still. It was so good and got them so excited, it made you want to crow, just like a rooster. But during this time frame, it was still the Old English language, so they decided to name it Chicken Cock. So during Prohibition, there was not a medicinal license to be sold legally or produced legally in the States. So they sold it to a Canadian company. Canadian company kept the name, they produced a rye, and then shipped it, bootlegged it back down to New York, and it was actually the house whiskey of the Cotton Club in New York City. The brand did well until about the 1950s when the distillery caught fire, and they decided not to bring it back to life. In 2012, the owner of Grain and Barrel Spirits fell in love with this brand, so he brought the trademark in 2012. 2017, we partnered with a gentleman by the name of Greg Snyder. He's been in the whiskey business for about 43 years. So bringing it back today, we have our barrels specifically made for our whiskey in West Virginia. Greg goes out there, picks out the wood for our barrels, and then we have a partnership with the Bardstown Bourbon Company. So they do all of the distillation for us. We have a bourbon, we have a rye, and we have a few limited time offers floating around. So the rye whiskey is 100% made at Bardstown Bourbon Company. So it's just about under 3 years right now in the barrel. It's going to be 95% rye and 5% malted barley. And then using those barrels from West Virginia, it's a char level 3 for our barrels. And then our bourbon, we have about 3,000 barrels or so laid down in Bardstown Bourbon Company right now, everywhere from 6 months to 3 years old. Greg's hoping next year around this time we'll be able to pull our first batch to put into bottles. It's currently sourced. So it's going to be a blend of 6-year-old and 15-year-old whiskeys, about 90% 6-year-old, 10% 15-year-old, and then the mash bill on this is 70% corn, 21% rye, and 9% malted barley.
The Limestone Branch, we're 10 years old, and 5 years ago we partnered with Luxco, who had the Yellowstone brand, which is an old family brand of ours. Next year's our 150th anniversary, that's how old it is. So it's really, really special. And then we also do a rye whiskey, minor case rye, which is a fantastic rye, 2 years, finished in a sherry cask. And then we have the distillery down in Lebanon. We do tours every day of the week, have a front porch, a bar. It's a great place to come hang out. There's usually dogs around, and most people just love hanging out. So we'd love to have you come down. You know, I'm Steve Beam, and of course people hear that name and automatically associate with my cousins down the road a little bit. But what people don't realize is that the Beams have touched so many different distilleries in the industry, and our family comes off of the Joseph branch, which were the nomads after Prohibition. So we were the ones that when you hear of a Beam at Michner's or Four Roses or Maker's Mark or all these different distilleries, that was all of our branch of Beams that were out in all these different distilleries. So we hadn't owned a distillery since before Prohibition, so it was really exciting for us to open back Limestone Branch and start our family back into the business of actually owning and operating a distillery.
Before we go ahead and meet the rest of the craft distillers, we want to hit pause and tell you about our home on the internet. It's whiskyambitions.com. It's where you can get t-shirts like this and hats like this, but also our Glencairns, Copitas, rocks glasses, water glasses, challenge coins, pins, candles, and more. Always coming soon. That's whiskyambitions.com.
You can become a patron at patreon.com/itsbourbonite and join our community for as little as $1 a month. That is where we release our exclusive Patreon-only barrel picks, like these blends that we'll be working on, the opportunity to participate in a barrel pick, Patreon-only content, and more. Now you might notice that the next segment takes place at the actual distillery.
Yeah, that's because the fine folks over at Still Distillery invited us out there to the new campus and gave us a tour. So that's where we got to talk to Wally Dant.
You're sitting on the old one of the old Dant Distillery sites, and so my great-grandfather owned this distillery in 1935 through about 1940. So he sold it in 1940 to another company called National Distillers that was a pretty big company at that point in time. And then they, in turn, about 3 years later, bought the original Dant Distillery about 6 miles away, and then they combined the operation. So this was the newer distillery, and it operated through 1962. And what we've done since then is take some of the old distillery, the bottling house, which is the internal here. So we've taken kind of the old buildings and put them within our new construction, just so that we give every one of our folks that come here an experience that says, hey, I'm kind of in the old building, in the new building. And so when you kind of look up here in this room itself, the ceiling has to be enclosed because of this copper still that we have right here. And for us here at Log Still, why are we here? It's the old Dant property, it's about family, it's about God, it's about community. For us to be able to come back and give back to the community that has given back to my family and have our family history that we've been making bourbon since the 1830s, whether it was with the Dant Distillery or whether it was with Yellowstone or whether it was with Barton's at the time. You know, a lot of us Dants have been involved in the bourbon making business, and so we wanted to bring our name back into, back into prominence here, and so that's why we're here. So our Monk's Road bourbon, and the reason why do we call it Monk's Road? If you came in from Bardstown, you actually probably came past the Abbey of Gethsemane, and that road is called Monk's Road. And so our Monk's Road that you've been tasting, which is a 6-year-old, you guys talked about it the other day, is a source bourbon, right? And so we're fully open and honest about that. It was made in Bardstown. It was a 100 proof, and it's a high rye, so 75%. I know you guys asked this in your video. So 75% corn, 21% rye, and then 4% malted barley. Aged over 6 years, and it's a single barrel. So every one of our Monk's Road source bourbons are gonna be a single barrel in this series anyway.
So Luca Mariano Distillery, we got started off a little different than most distilleries. The owner, Francesco, he actually at first was distilling in his garage because his grandfather, Mariano, which is where part of our name comes from, was, when he grew up, taught him how to distill. And when he passed away, he left him his pot still, and around 2010, he started playing around with it in his garage. And one day, one of his friends was like, hey, like, you know this is illegal to do in your garage, like, what are you doing? And he was like, well, give me my license to do it. So we got our DSP license. While he was waiting for that approval process to take place, he went to Moonshine University and took their distiller's course. And after his class, he talked with the instructor and had the instructor come up to his place in Michigan where he was doing it at first. He invited Colin from Moonshine University up, Rob Sherman from Vendome, and then also Pete Kamer, another big influential person in the bourbon industry. And Pete walked up, he was like, "What are we doing in your garage right now? Like, what's going on here?" Wilderness Trail got their license to distill right around the same time as us. Pete Kamer introduced Francesco to Shane and Pat to help us dial in our yeast strain. And then once we got that dialed in, Pete was like, "Okay, this is a great product, but you can't make it in Michigan now. Like, you gotta take it to Kentucky." So then we found our farm in Danville. We're just a few miles up from Wilderness Trail. We have 600 acres there, and a big focal point of our farm is the first and oldest stone house in the state of Kentucky. And we have a total of 4 products that are always available on the market: our small batch bourbon and our small batch rye. So the product on the market now is a 6-barrel small batch. It's 4.5 years old. Then our next product is our small batch rye. Same thing, it's 6-barrel small batch. The end of this year, we are moving that up to a 5-barrel, 5-year small batch at 89 proof. And then our next 2 products are our single barrel bourbons and our single barrel ryes. Those are a 6-year-old, 103 proof single barrels.
So we're Kentucky Peerless Distilling Company. We're owned by the 4th and 5th generation, Corky and Carson Taylor. Started back in 1889, Corky's great-grandfather, Henry Craver. We shut down during Prohibition, and about 100 years later, the great-grandson decided to revive the brand. We're located in downtown Louisville, Kentucky, right off 10th and Main. We do everything right on site. So we cook there, we distill there, we bottle there. We even have a rick house that holds 2,000 barrels. Now we use a strictly sweet mash in our process. We don't use any of the backset off the still. Everything we do is barrel strength. So we come off the still at 130 proof. We'll proof everything down to 107. Once it goes into that barrel after maturation, not a drop of water is added to it. So whatever proof it is, we leave it. We don't chill filter, we don't charcoal filter. We run everything through basically a simple paper filter so you don't have any particles or anything floating around in there for you. We have a rick house right on site too as well. Everything's single story. We don't do multi-level rick housing. So if you're ever in the area, come on down and see us. Down there at the distillery, we have single barrels exclusively at the distillery, handpicked by our master distiller, Caleb Kilborn. So if you come on down, you can taste our small batch rye, small batch bourbon, and we offer about 4 or 5 different single barrels right on site. So today marks the release of our double oak small batch, the first of its kind that we've done. We've done some single barrels in the past, but Caleb took a blend of about 20 to 30 barrels that we did. It's a blend of our 4, 5, and 6-year-old double oak barrels that we have in there.
Yeah, so Mike Palladini, my partner Danny from Penelope Bourbon. We're here at Kentucky Bourbon Fest, 2021? It's been a long weekend, so having a good time, and we're featuring 3 of our expressions here. Danny and I founded Penelope about 3 years ago, and it's named after my 2.5-year-old daughter. So Danny's got his son Cooper. We got the Cooper series as well, but basically Penelope, we're a blend of 3 different bourbon mash bills. Our juice, we get it from MGP, and it's a blend of corn, rye, wheat, and in all those bourbons there's malted barley. So that's kind of the long and short of Penelope. And so the Cooper series is basically all of our cast finishes. So the first expression in the Cooper series was our rosé cast finish, which is still the same blend of 3 different bourbons that we use. Now we're testing a variety of different ones. We have Tokai, we have French oak, we have just a series of different kind of ones that we're experimenting and tinkering with right now.
Tell me about your barrel picks. What you guys use for blending?
We do, yeah. So we don't have any here. Those kind of come and go as we get the right barrels in. But basically we have our Private Select series. So Private Select is these custom blends that we sometimes will let folks do their own kind of blend using our mashes.
Hey, guess what? We're working on one of our blends right now too.
That's right, we liked what we had at the Kentucky Bourbon Fest so much that we decided to do our own blend, coming to patrons soon.
So we are available online at various retailers online, but we're in about 20 markets right now. A lot on the Northeast. You can go to our store locator, penelopebourbon.com. You can check us out there. We got everything on there, so folks can definitely check it out. We'd love it.
So Proof of Wood Ventures is just got a CSP in Bardstown a few weeks ago. We've been blending, bottling, and aging in Bardstown for several years. We do have a collection of bourbon and rye, very rye-focused bourbons, as well as some rums and other esoteric spirits. Tumbling Dice Single Barrel just won Best Single Barrel in the World in Whisky Magazine last year. And we're super excited to be sharing that in Bardstown because we're based here in Bardstown. So the Senator is a straight rye whiskey made from 95% rye, 5% barley. It's distilled in Indiana, and then we blend and bottle in Bardstown. It's cask strength. This batch is sitting at 108.54. So we have a series, the election cycle series, that contains Senator, the Representative, the Presidential Dram, and the Justice. The Justice is the most mature. Presidential Dram comes in 4 and 8 1- or 2-term presidential terms for bourbon and rye. The Senator is a 6-year rye, and the Representative was a 4-year bourbon.
Hello, Sarah and Chad. Nice to see you guys. I'm Barry Brenniger. I'm one of the founders and an owner of RD1 Spirits. RD1 Spirits is the producer of William Tarr. We have William Tarr 12-year limited release bourbon, Kentucky straight bourbon, and then we have a Manchester Reserve, which is a blend of an 8-year rye, 7-year Kentucky straight whiskey product. So RD1 was established in 1865 when the federal government was needing to get tax revenues, and so they registered. The first registered distillery in Lexington, Kentucky was actually a descendant of Henry Clay, and they called it the Ashland Distillery. William Tarr owned the Chicken Cock Distillery at that time. He sold that, and then he bought the Ashland Distillery in 1871. He had the Ashland Distillery for the longest amount of time. There was a distillery fire late in the 1870s. He rebuilt it, and then he called it the William Tarr Distillery. So the products that came out of the RD1, Registered Distillery number 1, was Old Tarr, Old Elk, Bond & Lillard, Belle of Marion, E.L. Miles, and New Hope. So there were some award-winning whiskeys. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to resurrect that vintage brand and come out with super premium whiskeys and award-winning whiskeys. And so our Manchester Reserve, the 7-year product, won 2 gold medals and 2 silver medals, and it is a fan favorite. So we have that expression in 114 proof, a cask proof, and we also have it in a 96.4 proof. But we're super excited. We're in Lexington, Kentucky. We're going to be opening up our distillery experience in about 2 months, and then we are going to build from the ground up a distillery on Main Street in Lexington, Kentucky. That's going to be coming out in about 2 to 3 years. We've only been on store shelves since October of 2020, and this expression will be around for about a year. It's a unicorn. You don't find a bourbon rye Kentucky straight whiskey in the state of Kentucky. So it's get it while you can. It's $79.95 retail. You can find it all across the state of Kentucky. Our Kentucky Straight Bourbon is an ultra premium bourbon. It is a 74% corn, 18% rye, 8% malted barley. This special bottle is the bourbon that convinced our majority owner, Kentucky football coach Mark Stoops, to sign on and become a majority owner. So we're super excited about this product.
Hey, if you made it this far in the video, we want to hear from you. Down in the comments, let us know what your favorite craft distillery is, and it doesn't have to be one that was featured here in this video.
Chad, you know, I think the only thing that could have made this video better would have been if we'd had time to get every single distillery that was there. But there's always next year, right? Or this year.
This year, 2022.
Right. September 14th through 18th of 2022 this year. We hope to be back at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and we want to see you there.
And if you haven't subscribed to us already, you can do so by clicking right up here. There's suggestions of other videos down here. Hope to see you over there in one of those. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Chad.
See you guys at the Bourbon Festival. Until then, drink more bourbon.